It's commonly said that the games industry doesn't learn, but they do. And the game that taught them everything they base their decisions on today is Mass Effect Andromeda, the most important game of the last decade.
Really, Ryder?
The sky is blue, grass is green, and Mass Effect Andromeda was released as an embarrassing mess. Lazy facial work, buggy quest lines, and visual clipping made the Mass Effect game the butt of jokes for years. So why then do I not have some footage of all these bugs to show you? Well, because I bought the game on PC 8 months after it came out for 15 bucks. I'm about to tell you something so shocking, I figured I had to put it in the thumbnail just so you'd be ready for it. The truth is, EA fixed it. Seriously. And I understand why it's so difficult to believe. This just isn't something EA does. Rather, it's not something they do anymore. What's genuinely lost to history in the discussion of Mass Effect Andromeda is that it's actually a good game.
Glad you're hearing me out instead of shooting me in the face.
Well, surprise. Enemies! This heat is unbearable.
I detect a considerable temp.
Keep it up.
I should be more specific. It's a good game now. It's a solid third-person shooter with deep progression and upgrade systems. It has a weak story, but it's better than any of the drivel we get from Activision or Ubisoft these days. Is it a great game? Well, no. No, it doesn't belong on any top 10 list, but is it bad? No. It's a solid 8. 7.5. But does that mean I'm claiming that all those reviews, those memories, possibly your memories of the game are wrong? Well, no. Your impressions are correct, and I don't think someone who played the game originally would play it again now and suddenly turn around in their opinion. That's because first impressions are everything. If the first time I met you, I punched you in the junk, I'm pretty sure that would undermine any future chance of us ever being buds, and Andromeda punched a lot of junk. No, your opinions are yours, and they're correct. What I'm saying is that if you played it now fresh, you'd probably give it a solid, yeah, it was pretty good, and then move on. But I made a pretty big claim earlier, something about it being important and all that, because EA learned from their mistakes, but they sure didn't learn the lessons we wanted them to. Before the game came out, beta testers had leaked that it was unfinished. Video was leaked. A lot was leaked. We should have known better, but we didn't. Mass Effect Andromeda still made the initial investment back in a week, selling 3 million copies in the first month, about on par with Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 in the same time frame. Hearing the bad press, and presumably fearing sales would taper off, EA did what was the norm at the time. They got hard to work and yes, fixed it. I've played through it 3 times, with 6 purely visual, non-gameplay bugs. In an open world game that can go 60 hours or more, that's actually really good. So naturally, once they fixed it, sales picked back up, right? Well, if they did, you probably wouldn't have been shocked by that thumbnail. No, they didn't. Andromeda wound up selling a total of 5 million copies, which was less than 2 or 3, and a lot of that was massively discounted. They didn't lose money on this thing, but it was absolutely dead. And EA learned 2 things. First, if you have IP that people want, just release whatever you've got, whenever you want, and people will buy it. But more importantly, they learned that fixing a game doesn't help them at all. For all the time and effort spent, the PR was lost, and they never recovered an iota of it. If this was an attempt to claw back their status after 2 consecutive years being named the worst company in America, it didn't work. The industry as a whole was already looking into new and sleazier ways of making money, but 2017 was the year they communally threw up their hands and said, "Screw it, we're all in." Finally took that last step. It was 1 month later that Overwatch added loot boxes. It was 6 months later that Battlefront 2 came out. So what's the moral? I suppose there isn't one really. I wasn't trying to make a case about what we do next or when to expect change. I just wanted to talk about that one moment where an industry went from greedy to downright cynical. The moment when they decided to stop pretending they saw this as an art form. There's something fitting that Mass Effect bookended both the beginning and the end of the best era in gaming. But hey, it's been 8 years. Maybe that's long enough. I know you have a copy somewhere. Perhaps those first impressions have run dry and you might just get that one last Mass Effect adventure you craved so long ago. Because let's face it, the next one will be terrible. I'll see you next time.